There's something I really hate in any marketing or conversation in general, and that's using diminutive words like simply to try and deflect a challenge. It's a great way to make it look like you're the victim, like everyone else is attacking you, and all you were doing is, look, I was simply trying to explain why I hit the guy in the head with the brick. Everyone else was jumping down my throat for it. I was just trying to explain myself. I don't get what their problem was. And NVIDIA's GPP article starts with the word simply. NVIDIA said in their GPP is being killed article, the rumors, conjecture, and mistruths go far beyond its intent. Rather than battling misinformation, we have decided to cancel the program. In other words, they're saying, this is why we can't have nice things. We were trying to do something nice for you all, and everyone else ruined it. It's their fault that these nice things have been killed. And they went further, had the gall to say GPP had a simple goal, ensuring that gamers know what they are buying and can make a clear choice. NVIDIA, you guys make some really good stuff. Let me get that out of the way first. That's a bullshit line. That line, ensuring gamers know what they are buying and can make a clear choice, is complete and utter bullshit. Here's the thing. Let's talk about great ways to make a clear choice, okay? Let me give you some examples. I have a product that I'm going to call the GT 1030. And that product has a specific set of specifications. You call them specs. And we're going to sell it with those specs and then also introduce another product called the GT 1030. Except this one has different memory. But we want people to have a clear choice. So we're going to sell both of them with completely different specifications. The memory is not the same. I don't care what the performance difference is. I don't care if it's 0. It's not the same product. Let me give you another example. The GTX 1060, one of them has 10% fewer SMs. It's still called the GTX 1060. It's even called the GTX 1060 3GB. So it sounds like the only difference is the memory. It's not. There's 10% fewer SMs. Making a clear choice means not having the same product name for two different products. That's making a clear choice. Adding whatever GPP was, just ignore all of the hard OCP breaking story. Pretend it never happened. Just didn't happen. All we know about GPP is what NVIDIA said. That doesn't change the fact that you're using stupid names for two different products. The GT 1030 is not the same as the GT 1030 with DDR4. GTX 1060, not the same product as the one with 10% fewer cores. That is a major difference. So before getting further, let's run with the ad for this video. Not really sure who we can run for this one. Before we're inevitably removed from every review list, be sure to go to store.gamersnexus.net and check out our new GN Teardown 3D laser engraved crystals, which are big enough for NVIDIA to throw through my window if they don't like this video. You can also check out the Gamers Nexus anti-static mod mat. The mod mat offers a 4x2 foot rubberized work surface with exceptional grip and build quality, helping protect your tables and components during the build process. Cheat sheets located on the mat give guides for PCIe wiring, thermal paste application, and GPU teardown screw positioning. If you order today, you'll be included in our next mod mat run, shipping within a few weeks. If you already have a mod mat or want something else, again, check out the GN Teardown 3D laser engraved crystals at store.gamersnexus.net. All right, so a reminder here. First of all, and you'll understand why I'm saying this in a moment, we've said a lot of good things about NVIDIA's products in the past year. We've recommended a lot of them. We have, at this point, basically recommended NVIDIA's flagship cards, 1080 Ti, 1080, well, not really 1080, but 1080 Ti as the go-to for the high end. We like the card. The GPU is good. Prices obviously are crazy right now. That's out of their control for the most part. So the point is, we've recommended their stuff. We Gamers Nexus, bought a Titan V and did all kinds of cool content with it that got NVIDIA a lot of attention, and sure, not as much, obviously. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. We can only do so much. But the point is, we invested $3,000 into their product, built some really cool stuff with it, and took top 5 scores in overclocking records. That's good coverage for NVIDIA. The reason I'm saying this is because I'd like the NVIDIA PR people who are going to be watching this to remember that I'm personally not critical for no reason. There are reasons when we are critical of things. And the thing here is that our criticism is very directed and pointed. There are specific times when we try to leverage it to make a good point. GPP is one of them, has been one of them. We've covered GPP in a number of different Ask GNs and news videos several times over now. And now it's time to talk about some more stuff here. So what I'm trying to say is don't forget that we look at things beyond just the product. So every now and then you talk about stuff like this. And I have to say that because, as you'll see in a moment, one of the things that we've learned about NVIDIA from our contacts is that the company's very vindictive. It's something that NVIDIA moved away from not long ago, actually. A couple of years ago, they really got into a good media relationship strategy. And then suddenly it's felt lately, the past couple of months or so, that it's regressing a bit back to the way things were many years ago. So anyway, a few things here. We've been working on talking to vendors all over the industry, partners of NVIDIA's, about GPP for probably about, I want to say a month now, maybe a little more. I don't know when our first GPP story went up, but it was around then. And when that went up, we got all kinds of contact requests from people in the industry. When the next videos went up, where I was on camera basically saying, we want to talk about this. Right now, we don't know what's true and what's not. We really need to talk to people. NVIDIA's not talking to us about it for whatever reason, and their partners are pretty hard to talk to about it as well. So basically, we were saying, look, it was a very indirect way of saying, if anyone watching this knows stuff, let me know. So what we've done for the past month or so then is collect information, and all the way up until about 3 days ago is when I spoke to the most recent person about what NVIDIA was doing with GPP. Well, the plan was to build a big story about it once we had enough information to determine how much of GPP was as bad as presented originally and how much of it was the internet overreacting and creating an outrage engine as it does. Because there's a bit of truth to both. NVIDIA is certainly right in some of the stuff they've said. There have absolutely been mistruths, as they call them, or bullshit and lies, as I call them, about GPP. But not everything was. There were some pretty bad things, too, from what we've heard. So let's go over this. First of all, I'd like to read one more line from the NVIDIA article. It's not very long. NVIDIA creates cutting-edge technology for gamers. We have dedicated our lives to it. We do our work at crazy intense levels, investing billions to invent invest in the future, or they say to invent the future, rather, and ensure the amazing NVIDIA tech keeps coming. All right, so I don't disagree with this. I don't disagree that NVIDIA does create cutting-edge technology, so does their competition. I don't disagree that they've dedicated their lives to it or invest billions of dollars in inventing the future, as they call it. I do not disagree there. So we've got some things we agree on. The first part of the article, I really strongly disagree with. But here's what I want to share. Now that obviously there's not going to be any more story to look into, because NVIDIA, if you haven't caught on by now, NVIDIA is killing the GPP program, so they say. I guess we can just go ahead and share all the stuff we have gathered up until this point, even though we weren't really ready to build a full content piece on it. First and foremost, we contacted NVIDIA when this story went live, and they did not comment on it. We contacted them multiple times after that, at least 2 or 3 times, via phone, via email, and NVIDIA did not comment on it. So we never got an official statement from NVIDIA. Their official stance was to not talk about GPP, which is interesting. I think it was Jay from Jay's 2 Cents who said, if you're so proud of it, why aren't you talking about it? That's a great way of putting it. So now that we've gotten NVIDIA first party out of the way, because they had nothing to add to this, in the past week alone, I'm just going to go over all the stuff I've spoken with contacts about. First of all, let's get the 2 kind of outliers out of the way. 2 of the people we spoke with who are at companies that would have, let's just say, some biases towards NVIDIA, 2 of them basically either saw no issue with GPP or knew nothing about it. A lot of people knew nothing about it, but for different reasons. In the past week alone, we've had 2 contacts at different companies tell us that our contacts had gone largely dark because mostly quote, not going to direct quote people, mostly quote, nVidia is vindictive and that concrete evidence doesn't exist in writing for things. So we had other contacts tell us that a lot of the agreements had implicit requirements and collateral like allocation priorities. So two things here. When I say implicit requirements, what I mean is there was nothing in writing. This is not stuff that is necessarily written in a contract. It's more kind of, let me quote Linus now, stepping on the toe of the person next to you when you're taking a photo. It's the kind of behind the scenes, under the table nudge to say, look, we've got these things you should be considering when looking at this contract. Allocation priority is the other thing I mentioned, and collateral. So different vendors, there are different tiers for vendors in the industry. There are different tiers for media too. We're in a tier of group. Linus is in the same or a different tier. Paul, Kyle in different tiers. So we're all in kind of different groups of how high do you rank this outlet when you're shipping out a new review sample. Do you want it to go to these people or to these people? If it's a workstation card, it goes over there. If it's gaming, it goes over there, and so forth. So there are different tiers for everybody. But there are also different tiers for board partners, people who make video cards. And the way that works is there is obviously a finite, non-infinite amount of GPUs being made. And then you have allocation of those GPUs. So what that means is, let's just make up some numbers. These are totally fake numbers. Say I have 5,000 GPUs available, and company A gets first shot at buying from that allocation up to maybe a maximum amount. Company B gets the next shot at it. And eventually you work your way down to kind of the lower tier companies that aren't, in your eyes, as important or impactful in the market, whatever, don't sell as much volume, so they don't get the same allocation. And allocation is a great way to potentially control partners, if only through fear. This isn't something we're saying nVidia was absolutely doing. I want to make that clear. However, it's something that, expressed to me from their partners, there was a fear of. So whether or not nVidia had intent to restrict allocation or reallocate inventory to different partners, it doesn't matter, because maybe they never planned to do that. That's fine. But their partners had felt that it was implicit in the discussions about GPP, and that's the scary part for them. So this is one of those, nVidia, if that's not true, rather than disagreeing with me about it, I would suggest you go talk to your partners and make sure they understand in writing what the deal is, and if that was ever a piece of collateral on the table for GPP. Now, another thing, what was in writing and what was implied verbally from what we've been told by our contacts were different things. We also encountered at least 2 vendors who stated they were furious, or similar synonyms, with the agreements. We encountered a couple of vendors who said they had, or I should say representatives of vendors, who said they had no particular thoughts on it, or could not. One group of people specifically said they just would not speak to us about it, which is a different thing entirely than having no thoughts on it. We recently had more than one nVidia employee talk to us and say that GPP was discussed above their pay grade, similar to something that we heard from other folks in the industry, and not necessarily something they were proud of. We also, so here's an interesting one. GPP seemed like it was kind of targeted more at mobile, laptops, Pentium G, Hades Canyon, stuff like that. Stuff where nVidia is genuinely threatened by immediate competition from AMD and Intel. And not necessarily for DGPUs. For high-end DGPUs, I doubt they care a whole lot. They already own the market. So this, I think, was more targeted at those market segments. And one of the things we understand presently from what people have told us in the industry is that Intel has a lot of existing deals in MDF, Market Development Fund, basically money, for laptop vendors and for mobile vendors. So from what we understand, Intel has a lot of agreements in place with those vendors. These agreements are typically, Microsoft does them too, all these companies do it, typically things like if you see a Windows sticker on a laptop, or if you see the Intel Inside sticker, Intel Core sticker, if you see branding on the box, Intel whatever, if you see Intel and Microsoft Windows listed at the top of a specifications page for a new laptop you're looking at buying, a lot of that has to do with MDF agreements. It's not just because they think the CPU and the OS are the most important, although there's potentially merit to that, but it's because those two companies, Microsoft and Intel, might have demanded to be at the top of the list. And in the past, we have heard of such things. So this is all done either just for MDF or for other agreements. You're getting rebates for processors that you purchase as a company and you want to put in your machines, in the case of Intel. So our understanding is that Intel already had agreements with a lot of the large laptop companies. I don't mean like Asus, who comparatively is a tiny, tiny laptop company. They don't do any volume when you look at people like the top dogs. And Asus is, to be fair, reasonably big in laptops, but they are not the biggest. And what I'm talking about is the biggest people in laptops, but I'm not going to name names. That said, you can figure it out yourself. The thing we know about them is that in the cases where these vendors did not agree to any kind of GPP, and there are, well, I'll leave that out, but cases where they didn't agree to something with nVidia, our understanding is that it's because they had an existing agreement with Intel. So it's not necessarily because they disagreed with it or were trying to do the good thing. It's because they already had one that was in conflict with it. So that's kind of just interesting to know. This limited NVIDIA's reach with GPP into targeted mobile and laptop segments, we think, from what we know presently from our contacts. But we also don't think they were necessarily targeting DGPU vendors. It seems more like an SI, OEM, laptop maker thing. SI maybe pre-built stuff like that as well. So it seems more like a play at kneecapping Intel's reach into the market, especially with AMD working with them now. NVIDIA also recently announced partnership with ARM on some stuff. That was a very interesting partnership after AMD's continued partnership with Intel on the Hades Canyon stuff. Either way, though, what I'm getting at here, a couple of things we need to go over. Definitely, we've learned a few things here about NVIDIA's behavior interacting with their partners that needs to be considered. However, to give NVIDIA some benefit of the doubt, not all of it, but let's just say these partners might have motive to tell us things that are not fully accurate or are exaggerated. That's something I fully allow for the possibility of. We've done our best to vet the sources, and this is why it's taken a month or longer, is because we take this information, I keep it in my head, and I go talk to 10 other people, and I try to start connecting the dots to see who's saying the same thing, who's off here on a tangent alone, what do I know about these individuals, what do I know about their companies, can I trust what they're telling me? Because there are plenty of reasons that an OEM, an SI, a board partner, anyone NVIDIA works with might want to see NVIDIA taken down a few pegs. Maybe they don't get as much allocation, maybe they work more with AMD, whatever. Although the latter is less likely because AMD tends to have, obviously, people like Sapphire who are brand exclusive, totally irrelevant there. But the point, again, is that it's possible for contacts in the industry to have a motive to try and take NVIDIA down a few pegs. So I will allow for that, and we did by trying to cross-reference things we heard in the list I just read you with other people's references and things they've said, so that we at least have a couple of sources from different companies that don't know we spoke to both of them to collaborate information or corroborate rather information and make sure that it all makes sense rather than someone who's just trying to take NVIDIA down. So I would say with what we've shared now, and I wanted to have more because we were building towards it, but GPP looks like it's going to be dead. So of what we have now, it does look like GPP was certainly a problem. It's a good thing. NVIDIA, huge kudos for killing it. Hopefully there's not more of this nothing in writing stuff going on about it, but that's a good move in my opinion. Also great on Kyle from Hard OCP for breaking the story. It took him a couple of weeks to work on it. It was taking us a couple of weeks to work on it and build something big to go with it. But that's what I got so far. The thing, again, that I want to say here, I don't have a problem with NVIDIA as an entire company. I don't have a problem with NVIDIA's products. We look at each product individually. I think our experience with other companies, look at Cooler Master, look at AMD. We've given them both lashings recently and also have given them both really high praise recently. So we look at them on a product-to-product basis. And I'm not saying this for your sake, viewers. I'm saying this for nVidia. And any other companies that have a problem with opinion pieces. Because I don't exist in this industry to give just glowing praise. That's not why I'm here. So when we talk about companies doing something, when I'm critical of something, when we talk about companies doing stuff that's just poor design, like on a product level, not on an ethics level or something like that, that doesn't mean I hate the company, doesn't mean we hate all their products. What it means is that that particular thing we're talking about, GPP in this case, was of questionable merit to us at the time of its discussion. It does not mean that we've got an agenda against the company. And I'm saying that because there is a frightening trend lately in companies, and this is not just with us. This is me talking to other reviewers or watching from a distance. There's a trend with companies having a problem with any kind of criticism. And I mean, I really hope everyone understands here, anyone in the industry watching, I am talking to you directly. I hope you understand that when we in media are critical of something, it's not the entire company. We don't have an agenda to give your next generation product a bad review because of the current stuff we're talking about today. It's not how it works. We look at everything product to product, and hopefully that's true for all the other media outlets as well. I know it certainly is for the folks that I speak with most regularly. So I just want to put that out there and say, look, I have a lot of problems with some of the stuff nVidia has done lately. I have a huge problem with the GT 1030 thing. I have a past and public and like behind us problem with the GTX 1060 naming. I clearly had a problem with the way they wrote their GPP resignation post where they're trying to make themselves look like the victims. But I really have highly recommended several of nVidia's products. So these things can exist simultaneously. There is not a single state of mind for an entire multi-billion-dollar company. There's a lot going on there, and everything deserves individual critical looks. So I'm going to leave that there. Basically, you have some information I had that we were working on collecting from vendors. That's what I shared right now is what I have corroborated with multiple sources. Everything else I left out if I didn't have some level of confirmation on it. We can't guarantee, obviously, that everything is perfectly accurate because the huge problem with this story, as it has been from the start, is that you really had one key source, one primary source for everything. It was Kyle from Hardware CP's article. And after that went live, a lot of the industry kind of went dark and claimed either I don't know anything about it. In a few cases, I won't talk about it, which is its own kind of admission, and it made it hard to dig further because we don't want to throw anyone under the bus if it's just lies. But there was no real reason to think that the original article was lies. It had some things that looked like they could be absolutely true. It was just a question of how serious were those allegations, and can we find people who can kind of confirm them? The answer is sort of yes, which I've just shared with you. But it sounds like a lot of it wasn't in writing, which makes it further difficult because then you're just really picking and choosing between contacts going, do I trust that person? Do they have a motive? Can I find someone else who says the same thing? Anyway, just some thoughts on the industry in general. Concerns with how manufacturers treat this type of content as if it's deserving of an immediate blacklist or something like that. I mean, I'm not afraid of that. We buy stuff. But I'd much rather work with the companies so that we can get stuff early, talk with them about any concerns we have, and hopefully resolve them prior to publication rather than buy it myself and then have to post my opinions without as much behind-the-scenes discussion about what we found. So hopefully people keep that in mind. But anyway, thanks for watching. Go to patreon.com/gamersnexus to help us out when everyone kicks us off their lists. Or you go to store.gamersnexus.net to pick up one of our GN cubes. These are glass crystals with a three-dimensional teardown logo in them. They're just really cool. Or if you want something functional, the Gamers Nexus anti-static mod mat is coming in within the next couple of weeks, and we are shipping them out to anyone who back orders today we still have stock for sure. It kind of runs out towards the end of it. But thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. I'll see you all next time.